As the 2024 general elections are fast approaching, the political landscape in Nkandla could see some shake-up. The MK party, which is endorsed by former President Jacob Zuma, is set to challenge the long-standing IFP dominance in the region. This has, however, sparked local division and debate over the embattled former president's impact on the area's development. Joining me now is political analyst, Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast. Professor Breakfast, always good to speak to you. Now, we talk about Nkandla and the impact of Jacob Zuma. In fact, the whole political landscape is an interesting proposition for us. Now, talk to us about some of the key elements to Jacob Zuma running and obviously pushing for the MK party, particularly in Nkandla.
Thank you very much, Hugo, for having me. Just to set the scene for the viewers, because everything has a context, and context is everything. It must be borne in mind that in 1994, the IFP won KZN and deployed Dr. Frank Mdlalose to be the premier of the province. And the reason why I'm citing this as a case in point is largely because in 1999, we saw an electoral decline of the IFP, partly because of the chairmanship of Msholozi, because he became the chairperson of the ANC in the province and the MEC. As you might know, there was a coalition arrangement because of his influence. So his political capital has always influenced the political behavior of the electorate of KZN. No wonder the ANC won the 2004 elections in KZN. So I'm arguing that the ushering in of Umkhondo Wesizwe, I think, will create a scope for a political shift or an electoral shift in KZN. Whether we like it or not, I mean, regardless of the views that we hold, former President Zuma is popular, in particular in KZN. And I would argue that he is popular throughout the length and the breadth of the country. Of course, you cannot be all things to all people, but he does have people who like him. And I think that will influence the posture of the electorate. But I understand that the IFP also is embedded in Nkandla because they won the election of the mayorship there in that municipality. I think they got 14 seats and the ANC got 10 seats. Now, the worst part of it for the IFP is that Msholozi did not campaign for the ANC at local government level in the previous elections at local government level. No wonder there was an improvement in the electoral performance of the IFP. So the argument I'm making is that I think the entering in of Umkhondo Wesizwe in the body politic, it does not only pose a threat to the ANC, but it poses a threat also to the IFP. I thought in the bigger scheme of things earlier on that the IFP stood a chance to dislodge the ANC from the helm in KZN. But with the ushering in of Umkhondo Wesizwe, I think it's a different kettle of fish now. I don't think that they are going to win. I know we're talking about Nkandla, but I'm talking about KZN as well. And I would argue that there won't be an outright winner.
So before we focus on former President Jacob Zuma and the rest of KZN, I just want to touch on something, conversations that have been had in Nkandla. And the conversations are two-sided. So there is a grouping of individuals who speak to the progress that they've seen in Nkandla, the progress they saw when President Jacob Zuma was rising through the political ranks up until the time that he became president. Many of these individuals didn't have tarred roads. They were driving on dirt roads, if you will, but roads have been tarred. Many of them have electricity. They have running water, and much of that has been attributed to the former president. Some obviously have allegiance to the IFP. Is it going to bear down on what work of development President Jacob Zuma was able to do almost as the catalyst of a shift in the voting pattern?
Yes, Hugo. I've heard the argument as well that when former President Zuma was a president of the country, he did not keep Nkandla at bay. He never forgot where he comes from. He brought people in high places in government to come and initiate development projects. You spoke about tar roads and so on. So I think people are going to remember that. And that will also enhance the electoral performance of his party. And also, I think the beauty of it is that he's the embodiment of Umkhonto we Sizwe. Of course, depending on whether the decision will still hold or not, it might change. There are many political dynamics. There's a lot of fluidity. As you know, the IEC took the matter up to the Constitutional Court. But at the moment, he's the image of Umkhonto we Sizwe, and I think they are banking on his image as a party, and that will contribute positively to the electoral performance of the party. So I think there will be a shift politically, or there will be a shift in the electoral trends in KZN and also in Nkandla.
Now, there's obviously a battle for all parties within Nkandla and the greater KZN. Now, one of the challenges, or one of the battles that Jacob Zuma and the MK party have to deal with is revelations of internal strife within the MK party, including allegations of bribery and factional fighting, raising questions about the party's stability. How might these internal challenges impact the party's electoral prospects and its ability to govern effectively?
Well, just to be fair and square, and in terms of comparative politics, because we are comparing two political parties here, which is the IFP and also Umkhonto we Sizwe. One can make the same argument about the IFP, that there have been threats which are posing a danger to the stability of the party, because there are two groups, the one for Hlabisa and then the other one. I mean, there was a debate whether the president of the IFP, Hlabisa, must be deployed to parliament or not, or whether he should stick around in the province. But the issue is that there are internal divisions also in the IFP. In the same way, there are also internal divisions in Umkhonto we Sizwe. But I don't want to go overboard and say that they are posing a serious threat. But I think, where there are human beings, there are problems. That's why I think, without sounding scholastic, there's a difference between conflict management and conflict resolution, because where there are human beings, there are problems, and conflict is natural, so long as it can be managed. So I don't think that, contradictions are a bad thing per se, so long as they can be managed. So I'm saying the contradictions within the MK party, I don't think that they are posing a serious danger at the moment, in as much as they are there. I don't think that the party has failed to manage them. Of course, I don't think they'll be able to resolve them.
Now, the involvement of traditional leaders in Jacob Zuma's political endeavours has been highlighted. What role do you see traditional leadership playing in contemporary South African politics, particularly in regions like Nkandla?
That is a very important question here, Hugo, because in post-colonial states, this is a point that is made by Mahmoud Mamdani. He talks about the bifurcated state, which is basically the two sources of political power. Because political power in post-colonial states comes from urban centers, and also it comes from the rural section of the population. So in rural areas, traditional leaders are the ones who normally tell the electorate who to vote for, and people respect them. That's why, for instance, even Malema at some point, I think he bought on behalf of the EFF a car for the king of Amatembu, Buyekaya. Of course, he came back to the east, but that's a different matter. But the issue is that there is an appreciation about the influence of traditional leaders. That's why Msholozi, one of the things that he did in the beginning when he established the party, MK party, was to reach out to traditional leaders I think also the traditional leaders are powerful because they are on the payroll of the powers that be of government. That's why when you do a thorough analysis in terms of where the ANC, for instance, falls short in terms of electoral performance, you realize that the support of the ANC has not declined in the rural section of the population. It has only declined in urban centers. That's why I would argue and say the ANC will lose KZN, the ANC will lose Gauteng, but definitely it will win the Eastern Cape, it will win Mpumalanga, it will win arguably Northwest, it will win Limpopo, but it will not win the Western Cape, and there are still questions about Free State. So the point I'm making is that the strength of liberation movements throughout history has always been in rural areas. But the paradox is that in as much as they draw support from rural areas, but they don't develop them, which is interesting.
It certainly is. Professor Breakfast, it's always great to get your insights, political analyst Professor Ntsikelelo Breakfast.